Good afternoon, intuitives. I want to do an important video today, and it's in relation to a lot of things I talk about on this channel, abuse as a whole, whether it's, sexual, emotional, narcissistic, of course, bullying, hazing, retaliation, any kind of abuse. And I want to give a message for those who have spoken up, those who are thinking about speaking up, and those that are afraid to speak up. And I'm going to speak from personal experience, and I'm going to tell you the crux of this video is it is empowering to admit you were abused. I know that may seem odd, and believe me, I know it's not easy to let people know and to admit that you let yourself be manipulated or blackmailed, or you were placed in a position where you either couldn't say no by force, or you felt as if you couldn't say no because if you did, you would lose your dream job forever, like how I felt, or you would also, like I was endanger the well-being of your coworkers who you were close to. And that was, my feelings in the fire academy with my bullying and hazing. Society often sets up dynamics where people with seniority or power, status, wealth, fame believe and act as if they are above and that they can do what they want, who they want, and people can't even talk about it because they are who they are. And yes, while in practice that sadly is the case and still a status quo that is slowly changing, in reality, they can't take your right away to speak up. You alone have the right to tell your story and tell the truth. And no matter what you're saying and no matter who you're speaking about, if it happened to you and it's the truth, you have every right to talk about it, no matter what anybody tells you. Somebody's status, fame, wealth, connections, popularity, what have you, doesn't make it okay. And don't forget that a lot of these people also hide behind their positions of power or seniority. And when you come forward, it is hard. You'll go through that mental battle of, what will people think of me once this truth is known? And I struggled with that too, especially with, my decision to go on the news, but there were other people's safety and career at stake there, which ultimately pushed through. And I've mentioned, stories of, the few celebrities and ex-Scientologists who served as great inspiration for that in other videos. And, once again, I've said their names before, but I thank them sincerely. But when you come forward, after the story's out there, you have a sense of empowerment, because basically what that allows you to feel is, though I didn't say anything while this was happening for whichever reason, whether I felt I couldn't say no, I physically couldn't say no, I felt manipulated, blackmailed, was basically told, this is what you signed up for, or, everybody's got to pay their dues, all those lies. By you coming forward, you're letting your abusers and, other people, potentially the world or an area, I mean, if it's a news story, that no, this was not okay. And even though I couldn't say anything at the time, or maybe you tried to and nobody really took it seriously, you're coming forward saying, I was not okay with this. This was wrong. You're not allowed to do this. And now people are going to know the truth about what you did, and will know the truth about who you are and how you treat people. And that's empowering, because it makes you brave enough to come forward and be vulnerable and open up and admit to what happened to you. And that empowers others to come forward. And when enough people come forward, that's when real change happens. That's when such actions aren't tolerated by society anymore and changes are finally implemented. And it gives you the power of saying, I was never okay with this. This was not okay. You knew it wasn't okay, and you backed me into a corner and made it happen anyway. And now I'm going to speak out about that. Because a lot of times, these abusers will never change. A lot of them, have narcissistic tendencies. They feel entitled to treat people like that for the various reasons that I mentioned earlier. Some of them have no remorse. Some of them have sociopathic tendencies where they actually get off on exploiting and manipulating and abusing people, and that is like a drug to them. And a lot of them, especially the ones that would fall under the category of covert narcissists, are very good at putting on that mask and hiding that at least while a lot of people are looking. And they value not only their ability to manipulate, use, exploit, and abuse people, but also their ability to be well loved and respected amongst a certain community. Wearing that mask of respectability or pseudo intellectualism or political righteousness. But when you come forward and let your truth be known, that mask gets ripped off, and the whole world gets to see them for who they really are. And not only are you empowering yourself and others by letting the truth known, you're now taking that person's ability away to hide who they really are, and that'll lessen their chance that it's going to happen to somebody else. And that's an empowering aspect of speaking up about your abuse too, is this the sense that you're able to tell yourself, because you think over it a million times, like, what could I have done differently in the moment? I wish I did this, I wish I did that. But when you're in that fight or flight response situation, you can't think clearly, and you shut down, you freeze up, you struggle to even form words, and you feel like you just have to go through with whatever they're trying to get you to do, that you can't say no. But after you come forward, you get that sense, after you make peace with that, you get a sense of, well, at least no one else should have to go through what I went through. Like, I'm going to change the status quo. I'm doing the right thing. And although what happened to me, and now everybody knows it, I would rather my story be known than have that happen to somebody else. And some of these points I've mentioned in other videos, but it's important for me to bring them together and add a few in one video. Because I know a lot of people who watch this channel, are victims of various types of abuse, and some are struggling with the thought of coming forward and letting their truth be known, calling out their abuser. It's 100% your decision. I'm just merely here giving my opinions on why I felt it's empowering, and I've read similar stories online from, in various narcissism forums, and, from watching interviews of celebrities who have come forward about how empowered they felt after they let their truth be known. And I'm giving you my personal experience as well. Always remember, it's not your fault that you were abused, no matter what kind it is. It is something very humiliating to admit. I mean, I've mentioned in this channel a few times that I was sexually assaulted back when I was 17 in the modeling industry. And I didn't speak about that for years, except for to one person, and she was facing similar issues in the same industry, and that was in 2005 or 6. But after that, no one knew about that because I was too ashamed to come forward as, a male admitting he was sexually assaulted. And I'll tell you here, if that's never happened to you, you don't understand. You can't understand. Even I can't fully relate to the women who have gone through sexual assault and stuff, because it's different for a man and a woman, just how society treats us differently. I mean, having gone through it myself, I can relate to what the women went through as best as any man can, but it's still different. It's tough to explain, but it's just the way, society perceives it as, it's okay for men of power to do that to them, and it's just, not normal for it to happen to a male. And I was abused by a male, if I forgot to mention that. But there's that sense of bravery, too, when you come forward. You're taking on the challenge, you're taking on the potential humiliation, you're taking on people looking at you differently, you're taking on people not believing you, criticizing you, trying to tear you apart because you're coming forward with the truth, and you are brave enough to do that. Damn torpedoes, full speed ahead, I'm doing the right thing. And as INFJs and ENFJs especially, integrity is extremely important to us, and truth. And if someone tries to take our truth from us, that hurts the core of who we are, and we'll eventually get to a point where we'll overcome the fear, find the bravery, and come forward. And also, as INFJs and ENFJs, when we're younger, like mid-20s and lower, we really struggle to say no. We are terrible at it. ENFJ is a little more than INFJs, but we are terrible at it because we're such people pleasers, and in our career, we're such careerists back then, trying to build that career because our career is so important to us, not only, for because we don't do anything halfway. We're all or nothing. So we want to be successful in whatever career we choose. But so much of our identity and purpose is wrapped up in that as well, that it's, more easily for us to be abused in a work situation because we fear something happening to that precious career that we hold so dear and hold so much of our self-worth and purpose in. But by eventually coming forward, you're basically saying, yes, I can say no, even though you made me feel like I couldn't in that moment. What you did was wrong, and I'm going to, let the truth be known, as I've said previously. So just remember, if you're thinking of coming forward with your abuse, it is the right thing to do. You have every right to tell your story and speak the truth. No one can tell you otherwise. It will empower other people to tell their truths, and eventually it will affect positive change. And your abuser deserves to be known for who they really are and what they did. As always, remember, never sell out your integrity. Stay true to yourselves and trust your intuition.